Okay, we're doing it. One of the most interesting elections ever. Ross Perot versus H.W. Bush versus Bill Clinton for the 1992 presidency. As you can see here, Bill Clinton wins decisively, 370 electoral votes to 168. But who is this character here? Ross Perot getting 19% of the popular vote. Crazy. We're not used to seeing this. We're not used to seeing three candidates up here on the page. We typically see Kerry Bush, Obama Romney, Trump Biden. We don't usually see this. And so super cool to see a third party actually have a reasonable shot of winning an election, actually carry more than 1% of the vote or something in a national election. But this begs the question, did Ross Perot sabotage Bush's chances? Did he help Bill Clinton win? And the context of this is that H.W. Bush was running for re-election. He was Reagan's vice president. He had just won in 1988 in an absolute landslide over Michael Dukakis. And to go from 426 electoral votes and 48 million votes to 168 electoral votes and 39 million votes, there needs to be an answer. Now, it could just be Bill Clinton, and Bill Clinton being a great presidential nominee and appealing to people and connecting with them. But also, was it this Ross Perot? We need to answer that. We need to find that out. Now, the most difficult question to answer and the most difficult question posed is, where do Perot's supporters lie? Researching Perot, looking into it, some of his policies, some of his ideas, looking at the fact that he was a Republican for his last 19 years here, made me think initially, hey, maybe 70 to 80% of the Perot voters, if they did not vote, would go for H.W. Bush, right? Because he's a Republican. He even had some Trump supporting statements, had some kind of even like Trumpism type policies back in the 90s. If he was in the center, it was to the center right. Well, then I read more deep dive the early 90s exit polls, presidential election exit polls, and the surveys and polls and just what people were saying in general, which was not easy to find from 30 years ago. And there were some Clinton supporters actually speaking extremely complimentary of Perot. I don't know if it was kind of that Southern tie of Perot was a Texas businessman. Bill Clinton was from Arkansas in the South. I don't know if people just kind of saw them more similarly. But Perot voters even spoke well of Clinton and said they might vote for him. And with Clinton just being such a moderate on his own, and Perot, to his credit, really being a third-party candidate, I wanted to dial that back a little bit and maybe only apply 60% of the Perot voters towards H.W. Bush if Perot didn't run. That way I could do a very fair estimate here of what it would actually look like if Perot did not run in this race. So that leads me to our ground rules. First, we're looking purely at the numbers here. I know you could say something about Perot's voice or Bush with the infamous read my lips, no new taxes. And, of course, his approval rating got to be very low. That is a number. That is worth mentioning. Or Clinton's charisma or kind of Southern charm thing. We're not really evaluating all that because, again, I think that comes down to opinion. And, of course, it's very important for races and politics, and it decides things. But this is a historical look just at the numbers to see if we can find anything in those historical numbers to see, did Perot influence this election and maybe cost it for Bush, right? So 60% of our vote, a Perot vote, is going to go for Bush. And then I figured divide that by 2 to be fair because some of those people might not vote. And then 40% of the Perot vote for Clinton, and then divide that by 2, of course, as well. So easy way to think of this, if there was 100 voters, 100 Perot voters, and they couldn't vote for Perot, 60 would maybe go for Bush, and then divide that by 2 to get 30 actual votes for Bush. And then the same for Clinton, just 40%. So 40 votes, divide that by 2 to 20. So you'd have 30 Bush votes, 20 Clinton votes in this scenario, right? How else did I look at it? Let's glance at the map again. As you can see, there's a lot of states that are blue. Cool to see Montana blue, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana. We don't see that anymore. Just cool to see a change up. Interesting to look at. But what I was studying was the states that flipped from Republican to Democrat. There were 22 of them. As we saw, again, Bush had a landslide victory in 88. So something really had to change for Clinton to flip that to get 370 electoral votes. And he certainly did. So had to go state by state in these 22 states that flipped. Obviously, I wasn't going to look at Texas or Florida, a red state, because how could Perot have hurt Bush's chances if he won the state already, right? So I wasn't going to waste my time and look at that. I went right down the list and looked, and there was 3 types of states here. There was states that were easy to see, states that were difficult to see, and then states that actually did flip. And so I'll show you the first one that was, because I got the map here. Stay tuned to the end of the video to see what my final results were and final map was. But let's take Arkansas, for example. It's at the top of the map here. Let's go back to the top. So Arkansas, right? I can click into Arkansas, of course, Clinton's home state where he was the governor. And I can see here 10% for Ross Perot. That's exciting. That's interesting. We don't see third-party candidates get that much anymore. I wish that happened more. It would make these elections cooler and more fun to break down. But nonetheless, here we are. 53 to 35 to 10. Now, we can just do some basic math. And even if we applied all of this to Bush, and we're not, people. Like, we're just doing 60% of it. But even if we did all of it, that would only give you 45, 46% for Bush. You'd still lose to Clinton. And we really would be giving 6% and the other 4% to Clinton. So I can see this is actually a blowout, actually a win for Clinton. You don't have to waste your time on this one. Hey, just put that in the Democratic column, put that in the Clinton column, right? So that was the one type of state I encountered with this. Let me talk about the other 2 types of states, right? So Michigan, very interesting. 43% to 36% to 19%. Now, not as easy to look at and say one way or the other. If you applied all 19% of this to Bush, of course, he's going to win against Clinton. So you really had to actually do our mathematical equations and see who was going to win this one. So I did that right here for you. You got Michigan. You've got the current vote totals, 1.8 million to 1.5 million, which results in Clinton winning by 316,000 votes over Bush. Then you have Perot's votes over here, 824,000 of them. And again, I took them right from the line here. Sorry, I clicked on Georgia. Took them right from the line. How do you handle this Perot vote? Well, you take this times 40% and divide it by 2 to get 164,963 votes for Clinton. And then this times 60% divided by 2 to get 247,000 votes for Bush. Then I applied this and this to their respective parts here. And I ended up getting Clinton still winning by 233,000 votes in Michigan. So I was able to mark that in blue, and the conclusion was not correct that Perot sabotaged this for Bush. Again, using our numbers of 60 to 40% in favor of Bush, it did help. It did help by about 70, 80,000 votes here or so. But it didn't flip the state of Michigan or make it so like, Bush can say Perot screwed him over or ruined his chances. No. Michigan safely went for Bill Clinton. Now, let's talk about the third kind of state here. Georgia. Very tight. Very tight when I look at this. 42.88% for Bush, 43.47% for Clinton, 13.34% for Ross Perot. Very hard to tell. Again, if you applied all of it, it's going to go for Bush. If you applied 60% of it, it's kind of hard to tell right off the bat who it's going to go for. Let me just show you the math I did. So again, I just took these raw totals here. There they are. And that was Clinton winning by 13,714 votes. Very tight. Then you had Perot's 309,000 votes. So how do we factor that in, right? So did the same thing. The 40% times Clinton divided by 2 got 61,000. Bush, same thing. 60% times the 309,000 divided by 2 got these final numbers, which resulted in Bush winning Georgia. We actually can give a little bit of stock to this claim that maybe Perot, if in the perfect world we could perfectly analyze his supporters going 60% for Bush, 40% for Clinton, might have cost George H.W. Bush the state of Georgia. So that was a very, very interesting find, folks. So let me show you what the map actually looked like, again, just so you can see a picture there. 370 to 168. And a little drum roll, kind of exciting. Here is what my map turned out to be. 302 to 236. So the hypothesis is false that Perot ruined the election for Bush. Bush did that to himself. We looked purely at the numbers here, and it was interesting. Again, we had about 68 votes here change in favor of Bush. we had Nevada and Colorado and Ohio most notably going, along with New Jersey and New Hampshire. I think that's all of them, right? 21 plus 15, 36, 40, 48, 52. I'm missing something. Georgia, that's 65, and then Montana for 3. Yeah, that's them all. So I'll give a quick rundown of that again. Nevada, Colorado, Montana, Ohio, Georgia, New Jersey, New Hampshire. I think I got them all there. Those states I had flipping back red for H.W. Bush when I ran the numbers. If you moved his total up to 70%, which I think is a bit rich, he does win the election because he starts to flip some of these states here. So you could do that, but I don't think that's historically fair. I think anyone that was alive during that time or has researched this deeply, I'd invite you to comment and kind of give some opinion on that. Do you think 60%, 40% was the right breakdown, right threshold? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'm fascinated to hear what you guys think. It was awesome doing this breakdown. I've always wondered this, how Ross Perot might have influenced that election, and he did. I legitimately think he did, and he cost Bush some states, but I do not think he would have changed the final outcome of the race if he had not declared or not ran. I think there was just too many things going for Clinton. I think Bush, there were some campaign promises he didn't keep. There was just some lack of popularity that was brewing, and I think he lost it fair and square. But Ross Perot had some influence. Again, please comment what you think, if you agree, you disagree. This was a fun breakdown to do. Let me know what you guys want to see in the next one. And again, thanks for watching.